Hi everyone, I am Dr. A.R. Vijay Babu, working as an assistant professor in Department of EEE, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, deemed to be University. So, we are in our 5th unit of Solar PV Technologies 2. And this 5th unit consists of 2 parts. The first one is the Emerging Solar Cell Technologies and second one is PV System Applications. So, the first part is already covered in the earlier video. Now in this video we are going to see the applications of solar photovoltaic systems. Now coming to the learning objectives of today's class, we are going to see building integrated photovoltaic units, and then we are going to see what is solar lamps and solar street lights, and then as a third objective we are going to learn solar water pumps, and then we are going to see solar cars followed by solar aircrafts, and at last we are going to see space solar power satellites in this lecture. Now coming to the first application of solar PV systems, it is building integrated photovoltaics. Then what are these building integrated photovoltaics? In short, they are called BIPV. So these BIPVs are defined as PV modules which can be integrated in the building envelope, that is maybe into a roof or a facade, by replacing conventional building materials such as tiles and glass. So as you can see here, this building integrated photovoltaics in this particular diagram are the photovoltaic modules which are replacing the conventional building materials like glass, and they are integrated in the facade of a building. Facade means the front side or the elevation side of a building is called facade. So the solar panels which are incorporated into the elevation or facade of a building by replacing the conventional glass is called a building integrated photovoltaic systems. And on the other hand, you can see in this picture the photovoltaic modules are integrated into the building's roof by replacing the conventional building materials like tiles. So the roof of this building was integrated with photovoltaic modules, and that is the reason why we also call this one as a building integrated photovoltaic system. So the building integrated photovoltaic systems can either replace the construction materials in facade or roof. Now let's see the operation of these BIPVs. So as you can see in the figure over here, the PV system is integrated to the facade of the building. That is, it is a building, and you can see the front portion of the building or the elevation of a building or facade of a building is integrated with the photovoltaic modules. As you can see clearly, when sun shines on the photovoltaic modules, the PV modules will generate the electrical energy, and that electrical energy will be utilized for that building. So you can see here the construction of this building is in such a way that the solar panels should be kept before the building or integrated with the envelope of a building on the back side, but you have to leave some space between the solar panels as well as the building. And on the other hand, you should also provide a glazing on the front side of these solar panels. So the solar panels have to be kept in between the glazing as well as the facade of a building. Right. Now you can see at the bottom you have the outdoor cool air, and this cool air will enter in between the spaces. Because of the sunlight falling on the glazing material will concentrate that sunlight onto the photovoltaic modules, and the photovoltaic modules will generate the electrical energy. So because of this long standing operation, the photovoltaic modules get heated up, and the air which is coming from the bottom will absorb the heat of the panels and thereby improving its efficiency and lifespan. As you have clearly seen in our third unit, that is MPPT technologies, the solar panels work efficiently during winter compared to summer, but the amount of energy produced during summer will be higher compared to that of the winter because of the length of the day is less in winter compared to summer. Because of the cooling, the winter efficiency of a solar panel will be very, very high. The same concept is utilized here, and the air which is coming from outside will remove the heat which is produced by the solar panels, thus providing a cooling effect to the panels, and thereby the efficiency as well as the lifetime of the solar panels will increase. And on the other hand, the energy which is produced by these panels will be consumed by the building. In some applications, like in cold countries, we'll use a fan and an air duct in the system in order to draw the heated air into the room to reduce the heating load in winter. That is in space heating applications. Say for example, you are residing in cold countries or in a cold weather places. So what you need? You need space heating instead of air conditioning. So for that reason, we will use a separate type of systems called building integrated photovoltaic thermal systems. And they do two purposes. They will generate the electricity as well as they will supply the thermal energy to your space heating applications. So it's a two-edged sword. On one side you have electricity generation, on the other side you have a thermal comfort. So how it will provide that? So as you can see in the figure here, when sunlight falls on the glazing, it will transfer that energy into the solar panels, and solar panels will generate the electrical energy, and in this process the solar panels get heated up. Now air from inside the building, which is very, very cool air, will now be entered into the space between the building and the solar panels. As you already seen, the solar panels have to be kept in between the glazing as well as the building wall. So now the air which is inside the room will be forced to move through this gap between the building wall and the solar panels in such a way that this air will be taking away all the heat which is produced by the solar panel into the room by means of a fan, and thereby providing the heated air into the room, and thereby it provides the space heating for that particular room or building or facility. Apart from this, the solar panels will generate the electricity, and that also will be used by this building. So it's one shot, two birds, right? What are the pros and cons of this building integrated photovoltaic systems? Coming to the pros of this building integrated photovoltaic system, they are aesthetically pleasing. When you look at them, you feel in an aesthetic manner, right? And then it saves building material. So in place of building materials, you are incorporating solar panels, and thereby you are saving the cost of building materials for elevation or facade or roofs. It can also be used on structures such as facades, roofs and sunlights, skylights. And coming to the cons of this building integrated photovoltaic system, the higher cost is the biggest drawback of this system. The efficiency of this building integrated photovoltaic technology is very, very less, because normally we will use thin film solar cells for this building integrated photovoltaic systems, and the efficiency of these photovoltaic systems will be very, very less in the order of 6 to 12%. More complex and requires high labor charges in order to construct this building integrated photovoltaic system. So coming to the second application of this lecture, solar lamps and street lights. Solar powered street light work on the principle of solar cells or PV cells to absorb the solar energy in the daytime. So these solar street lights will absorb the solar energy in the daylight and harness the energy from the sunlight and then store it in a battery, and then during the evenings when there is no sunlight and when we require the light to be on, and this stored energy will be supplied to the LED lighting system, so that the lights will glow and provides the required illumination to the roads. As you can see here, the converted solar energy is stored in a battery during the daytime, and at the night time the lamp starts automatically by using the electrical energy which is stored in the battery to power the or to illuminate the roads. Now let us see the solar powered LED street lighting system. So this solar powered LED street lighting system operates from night until the morning. See, these LED lamps automatically switches on after the sunset, and then they will be automatically switched off after sunrise, right? So they will be operating from night until morning. So this system consists of Number 1, solar panels. Number 2, LED lights. Number 3, rechargeable batteries. And number 4, charge controllers. Number 5, control circuit with 2 different kinds of sensors, a pole and the interconnecting cables. All these are the equipments which are used in designing the solar powered LED street lighting system. Now let's see the operation of this solar powered LED street lighting systems. So in solar LED street lights, a controller is used, which is a very important component. We can refer to it as a heart of a LED street lighting system powered by solar PV cells, because this is the one which decides to switch on or switch off the lights as well as the charging. So by receiving the power from the solar panels, it continually charges the battery in daytime, and while in the evening it supplies the battery power to a set of LED street lights for illuminating the roads. And this switching on and switching off action is performed by this controller, and that's why we termed it as heart of this system. The current produced by the solar PV modules flow through the charge controller circuit before charging the batteries. So during the morning time, when the solar PV modules generate the electrical current, and this current will first flow through the charge controller before it enter into the battery. Why? Because the charge controller is used to prevent the undercharging and to protect the batteries from overcharging, which could reduce the battery life. We have already seen it in our unit number 4, that is battery energy storage technology. There is a particular thing called depth of discharge. You cannot discharge a battery less than the particular limit. If you do so, what happens? It causes a permanent damage to the battery and thereby reducing its lifetime. And at the same time, you should not overcharge your battery. If you overcharge, the battery becomes bulges and it will burst out. So these two are the two threats to the battery, and that is the reason why this charge controller will charge and discharge a battery according to its operation. So if it is during the morning time, while the battery is charging, if the charge gets exceeded, then what it will do automatically, this charge controller will cut the supply to the battery. So during the night times, when the battery is used to supply the street lights, when the battery is discharged to a preset depth of discharge value, automatically this charge controller will send a signals to the battery so that the battery will be cut down from the street lights, and thereby protecting the battery from both over voltages and under voltages. And that is the reason why we call this controller as a heart of this solar PV powered LED street lighting system. So the street lights are equipped with 2 different sensors. As you can see in the picture over here, there are 2 different sensors. The first one is a light or dark sensor, and second one is a infrared sensors, and these 2 are interfaced to a microcontroller unit. And what is the purpose of this light and dark sensor as well as the infrared sensors? This light and dark sensor is used to detect the surrounding light intensity and sends the information to the microcontroller so that it can decide whether the street light should be turned on or off. So this light or dark sensor will senses the light intensity of the surrounding environment. If the light go down, then what it will do? It automatically sends the signal to the microcontroller to turn on the LED lamps. On the other hand, if there is a light in the morning, so the LED street lights have to work from night until morning. So when the morning comes and when sufficient amount of sunlight is sensed by this light or dark sensor, automatically it gave a command to the microcontroller to off the street lights. So it does automatically the starting and stopping of a street lights based upon the light intensity of the surroundings. Then the IR sensor can also be called as vehicle detector sensor or road user sensors. So what is the purpose of this IR sensor? This IR sensor is activated for particular time duration as per our timer settings. So for example, this sensor we can activate after 12 AM midnight to 5 AM early morning. So we can use this sensor during this time period. And how to use this sensor and what this sensor will does. So generally we can observe that after midnight 12, the traffic density is very less on the roads. So in order to save the energy, we can
program this microcontroller in such a way that after 12 am the street lights should turn off automatically. Then whenever the street lights turn off after 12 midnight, now this IR sensor comes into picture and gets activated. Now, so after 12 am, that is midnight, when any vehicle or person come along the road, then this IR sensor will detect the presence of an object and sends the information to the microcontroller. Then as per the commands sent by the microcontroller, the street lights turns on. Then after the object or person passes away the road, the lights again turned off automatically by the command of microcontroller as sensed by the IR sensor. But how this IR sensor will do this job? Generally, the detection range of IR sensor is 13 meters. So, it can detect an object 13 meters ahead as well as 13 meters behind its placement. That is, every street light is equipped with the IR sensors to detect the moving object. So, for example, before the object reaches the street light number 1, the light gets turned on by sensing the coming object, and after moving, object crosses the light and move on forward, the light turns off by gradual dimming intensity and the next light's sensor starts its operation. Say for example, there is a street which consists of 10 street lights, right? Now what happens? Now whenever an object enters into the street, so the street light 1 which is equipped with the infrared sensor will sense the motion of that object or person or a vehicle 13 meters ahead. Then in this meantime, this infrared sensor will give the signal to the microcontroller and microcontroller will turn on the street light number 1, and then the street light will be on and the vehicle will pass through this street light. The street light number 1 will be on until it crosses its range. That is, the vehicle has to cross up to 13 meters. Up to that time, the street light 1 will be in on condition, but with a dimming light intensity. As the object passes away from the street light number 1, what happens? The light intensity of this street light will goes on decreasing gradually, and finally after the 13 meters is completed by the vehicle, then the street light 1 turned off. Now street light number 2 will sense the motion of this car or a moving object or a person. Automatically the street light number 2 will on. So the dimming of the street light number 1 and turning on the street light number 2 will happen simultaneously, and likewise the dimming of street light number 2 and turning on of street light number 3 happens simultaneously, and likewise the dimming of street light number 3 and turning on of street light number 4 happens simultaneously, and likewise instead of glowing all the 10 street lights in the street, it will glow one by one, and thereby you can reduce considerable amount of electrical energy. And this process is automatic process and controller will perform this task, and that's why we call the controller as the heart of this solar LED street lighting system. Now what are the pros and cons of this solar LED street lighting system? Coming to the pros, it requires fewer systems for installation, as well as it offers high lighting output when compared to the conventional light. It requires less time for installation and needs fewer systems. It offers long shelf life compared to the conventional lights, and the maintenance is also very less. It offers pollution free ambience. It provides provision of portability. So that means you can remove this street light and you can place it in some other street as and when you require it. Coming to the cons of this LED street lighting system, the initial investment is very high when compared to the conventional lights. The dust, snow or moisture can mount up on the PV panels and thus reducing the energy production, and thereby the rechargeable batteries needs to be replaced several times over its lifetime. The solar system costs reasonably high, and therefore the risk of theft is also very high. So all these are the different pros and cons of LED street lighting system. Now coming to the next application, it is a solar water pumps. As you can see in the picture, the solar water pumps is a pump running on electricity generated by PV panels. The solar photovoltaic water pumping system consists of a PV array. You can clearly see in the picture it consists of a PV array as well as a surface mounted or submersible or floating motor pump set. You require a motor and pump set. And the solar panels will supply the energy to the motor, and motor will get rotated, converting the electrical energy into mechanical energy. And these pump sets will convert this mechanical energy into hydraulic energy by lifting the water from underground for irrigation purposes. This PV array is mounted on a suitable structure with the provision of manual or automatic tracking system. So tracking is necessary because we already seen it in the unit number 3, that is MPPT tracking. By means of some mechanical tracking or electrical tracking, we should always track the solar panel such that maximum power will be always delivered by the solar panels to the motor. So water is pumped during the daytime when sun shines in the sky, and the water is stored in a overhead tanks for use during the daytime. On the other hand, we can also use that water during night or under cloudy conditions. So the water tank acts as a storage, and generally the battery is not used for storage of PV electricity in this particular application, because most of the times in India we won't water the crops during the night time. We will water it during the daytime. And that is the reason why there is no need of a battery. And when the other reason for usage of battery is cloudy conditions or rainy seasons. So when rain comes, there is no need to water the agricultural lands, and thereby battery is not of use in this particular solar water pumping system. However, for specific reliable requirements, it can be used. The solar water pumping is based on PV technology that converts sunlight into electricity to pump water. As you can see in the block diagram over here, the PV panels are connected to a motor. That motor may be either AC motor or DC motor, which converts this electrical energy supplied by the PV panels into mechanical energy. This produced mechanical energy from the motor is then converted to hydraulic energy by the pump by lifting the water to the overhead tank from the underground bore wells or from the wells. So this is how the solar photovoltaic water pumping system will work. It uses an AC motor or DC motor. If the motor which is used is a AC motor, then you need to provide one more equipment called inverter. An inverter is a device which will convert DC electricity to AC electricity. So we need to keep a inverter in between the batteries and motor, so that the DC which is stored in the battery will be converted into AC and then supply it to the motor. On the other hand, if the motor is a DC motor, then there is no need of inverter. We can straight away connect that battery to the motor itself. And we'll use charge controller in this solar water pumping system also, because a charge controller is very essential if you want to charge or discharge a batteries. So when you are incorporating batteries into your system, you should also use a charge controller to prevent the undercharging and overcharging of batteries in order to get high efficiency and lifetime. So coming to the pros and cons of the solar water pumping systems. The pros are, the solar water pumping system is reliable and it has a long lifespan, because the solar panels life can be at least 25 years. So the system can work for up to 25 years, and it is a environmental friendly, and then economic benefits are better than diesel pumps. When compared to diesel pumps, the solar panel water pumping system will provide huge economic benefits as well as environmental benefits. And coming to the cons of this solar water pumping system, they are unstable. So pumping is affected by intensity of sunlight, and that's why tracking is always necessary. The pump does not work at night in areas without a grid. If in a particular village, if there is no provision of government power, then we have to install the solar powered water pumping systems. But at night time, we cannot drive the pump by means of this solar water pumping system, because panels does not work at night time. So coming to the next applications, it's a solar car. And what is a solar car? A solar car is an electric vehicle powered completely or significantly by direct solar energy. As you can see in the figure, the roof of the car is fitted with the solar PV panels. And let's see the working of it. You can see different types of solar cars. So it's a solar racing car. The top surface of the solar racing car is powered by solar panels in this case. You can see some other design of a solar powered drive car here. Again, the roof is the front side bumper and the back side is covered by solar panels. Now coming to the working operation of this solar car. Solar car depends on PV cells to convert sunlight into electricity to drive electrical motors. So the electrical energy is being fed to the batteries via the charge controller, and this charge controller will prevent the undercharging and overcharging of the batteries. And the shaft of the motor is connected to the rear wheel of the vehicle. As you can see, the shaft is connected to the rear wheel, that is the back wheels of the car, where motor is provided in between the rear wheels. So as you can see in the picture, the working, you have solar panels which will generate the electrical energy, and the generated current will then enter the solar charge controller, and from there it will be stored in a battery. And from the battery, the speed controller will take the DC electricity, and then that will be given to the motor. And this motor is equipped with the electronic speed controller. And the battery will supply the energy to motor as well as electronic speed controller. And motor will rotate, which will drive the wheels of a vehicle. Now coming to the pros and cons of this solar cars, the advantages are it saves money on fuel. It is sustainable and environmental friendly. No additional cost except battery replacement. So it does not cause noise pollution or air pollution. Coming to the cons, high initial cost, they are weather dependent. Storing the solar energy is relatively expensive. And then the solar panel uses a lot of space. So coming to the next application, we are going to learn solar aircrafts. So what are these solar aircrafts? Solar aircraft is an aircraft completely powered by photovoltaic cells. As you can see in the pictures over here, you have an aircraft which is powered by solar PV panels. As you can see in the figure over here, as you can clearly see here, the wingspan on which the PV modules are installed is 72 meters or 236 feet. And how many solar cells are used on this wing? 17,248 solar cells are used or installed on the wing of this aircraft in order to power it. And each solar cell's thickness is 135 micrometers, which is as thin as a hair. And the cockpit area where the pilot sits is only 3.8 meter square. And it uses 4 260 watt-hour per kg batteries, right? So the complete weight of this aircraft is 2.3 tons. So how the solar aircraft will work? Same concept. Solar panels will generate the electricity, and the current will be sent into the charge controller, and then it will be stored in a battery. And this charge controller will prevent the undercharging and overcharging of the batteries. And then there is an electronic speed controller and an electric motor. And then the energy will be supplied to the electric motor, and electronic speed controller is associated or coupled to the electric motor to control the speed of the propeller. This is how it will work. You can see different types of aircrafts. This is one such aircraft which has two wings. It installs solar panels on both of its wings. Coming to the Helios prototype flying wing, which was made by NASA. It's a very bigger aircraft. Now coming to the pros and cons of this solar aircraft, the pros are it saves money on fuel. So it is sustainable and environmental friendly. It does not cause noise pollution or air pollution. Coming to the cons, it has a high initial cost. It is weather dependent. If there is a cloudy weather, the aircraft cannot fly. Then the solar panel uses a lot of space, as you can see in the pictures. Pilot life is difficult because the cockpit area is very tiny, that is only 3.8 meters square. So the pilot cannot stand up or walk in the cockpit. So till the journey finishes, the pilot has to be confined to his seat. That makes the pilot life difficult. Coming to the last application of the solar photovoltaic systems, it is space solar power satellites. So space solar power satellites is a tremendous energy system that collects and converts solar power to electrical power in space and then transmits the electrical power to Earth wirelessly. You can see in the figure, it's clearly seen that you have a satellite which has equipped with solar panels, and this solar panels will generate the electricity, and then this generated electricity will be transmitted to the earth wirelessly. So you can observe one thing here. What is the main drawback of this solar system? The solar system is inconsistent. That is, the solar energy is not constant on the earth's surface. It will be available only for a particular time. only during daytime. It won't be available during night. And even in the daytime, when it is available, it is fluctuating in nature. So these two drawbacks can be overcome if we place the solar panels in the space. Because in the space, there is no atmosphere and sun falls continuously on the satellite. And that is the reason why there is no day and night in the space. You can get 24 hours generation. As well as there is no environment and there is no clouds in the space. And thereby you can generate a constant amount of electricity 24/7. So it's a very big thing. But how can we generate that? The simple concept is the solar panels are the main source of DC power in space. So microwaves are generated using a device called a magnetron powered by DC supply. So by utilizing the solar generated DC power, we will power a device known as magnetron. And this magnetron will generate the microwaves. And the frequency of these microwaves will be in the range of 2.45 GHz to 2.54 GHz. So the DC electricity which is generated by the panels will be converted into microwaves by means of a device called magnetron. And then furthermore, the microwaves that comes out from the magnetron needs to be transmitted to the receiving retina via space. A special type of antenna called retina is used to directly convert microwaves into DC electricity. So what do you mean by this? So when the solar panel generates the electrical energy, that energy will be supplied to the magnetron, and magnetron will generate the microwaves, and these microwaves will be transmitted by means of an transmitting antenna. And then on the earth, this transmitted microwaves will be received, and then by means of an antenna called retina, will convert these microwaves into DC electricity back on the earth's surface and supply it to the grid. As you can see here, the working principle, you can see here the working of a solar power space satellites. So the solar panels in space converts the solar energy into electric energy, and then the energy is converted into microwaves or laser and then beamed to the earth through transmitters. And on the earth, a ground receiving system receives the space transmitted microwaves and then convert the beam into electrical energy and feed into the grid and to the city. This is how we can generate the electrical energy from space. So the complete process of conversion of solar energy to electricity and its delivery to the grid consists of 4 different steps. The first step is capture the solar energy in space and convert it to electricity by means of solar panels. And then microwave generator converts the electrical energy into microwaves and then transmitting and receiving of microwaves. The microwaves will be transmitted through space and then they will be received on a ground station by means of a retina and then provide the electricity to the utility grid for supplying the cities in the earth. So this is how the solar space satellite system works to convert the solar energy into electricity and deliver it wirelessly to the earth. Now we came to the end of this unit. So in this unit we have gone through different applications of solar PV systems. The first application which we have gone through is building integrated photovoltaic technologies. And the second one is solar powered LED street lighting system. Third one is solar water pumps. Fourth one is solar car. And then solar aircraft, and at last we have seen solar powered space satellites. So with this we conclude this unit number 5. Thank you. So guys, we have completed our subject, that is solar PV technologies too, in all the aspects. Now let us brush up what we have gone through in the 5 units of this subject. In the first unit we have seen the design aspects of solar cells. In the first unit, we have seen the design aspects of solar cells. So what we have gone through in this unit? We have seen the upper limits of short circuit current, open circuit voltage and fill factor as well as efficiency. Then we have also gone through the design aspects of solar cells. That is, design for high short circuit current, design for high open circuit voltage and design for high fill factor. So what are the methods we have discussed in design for high short circuit current? We have discussed anti-reflective coating, light trapping and surface passivation. Then we have discussed the design aspects of solar cells to improve the open circuit voltage. There we have seen back surface fields and surface passivation techniques. And to improve the fill factor, the design aspect is to reduce the shunt resistance as low as possible. Ideally 0, which is not possible, so we need to keep it as minimum as possible. And then we have gone through the solar simulator, which will measure the performance of a PV cell by drawing the IV curves. As a last topic, we have seen the quantum efficiency. That is the number of electrons generated per each photon is nothing but a quantum efficiency. So in the second unit, we have gone through solar PV modules. So in this particular unit, we have seen the interconnection of series and parallel connection of solar cells, as well as PV array or series and parallel interconnection of solar cells. Later we have discussed the concept of shading, and then we have seen the usage of diodes in a PV modules. There are two types of diodes which are used in the PV modules. Number one, bypass diodes, and number two, blocking diodes. These bypass diodes will be used to prevent the hot spots arising from partial shading of the solar cells or panels. And the blocking diode will be used to prevent the negative current flow into the solar panels from battery during the night time. And then we have seen the fabrication of solar PV modules. Then we have seen the effect of temperature and irradiation on the performance of solar PV modules. And in the third unit, we have discussed about maximum power point tracking algorithms. We have seen what is a maximum power point tracking and why it is required, and then we have seen different algorithms like fixed voltage method, fractional short circuit current method, fractional open circuit voltage method, pilot cell method, perturb and observe algorithm, and incremental conductance algorithm. And then we have seen the mechanical tracking. In this mechanical tracking, we should always keep the panels in such a way that the sunlight always hits it 90 degrees. So that when sunlight hits the solar panel at 90 degrees, you will get the maximum power out of these panels. So we can mechanically track these panels in order to always keep the sunlight perpendicular to the panels. So there are two types of trackers we have discussed here. The first one is a single axis tracker, which considers only the daily variations, and a dual axis tracker which considers daily variations as well as seasonal variations. Then in the fourth unit, we have discussed about the battery energy storage technologies. We have seen what is an energy storage and why we need energy storage, what are the components of energy storage. Then we have seen the battery energy storage. Later we have discussed the charging and discharging of a battery, and then we have seen the performance curves of a battery, and later we have seen the different types of batteries like lead acid battery, nickel cadmium battery, and lithium ion batteries. And then we have seen the different terminologies associated with this battery like ampere hour rating, round trip efficiencies, self discharge, depth of discharge, state of charge, specific power, specific energy, energy density, power density, and battery life. All these parameters we have discussed in our fourth unit. And the fifth unit of this solar PV technologies 2 deals with PV system applications and emerging solar PV technologies. So this unit consists of two parts. In the first part, we have discussed the different emerging solar PV technologies. What are those? Dye-sensitized solar cells, thermophotovoltaics, organic solar cells, and concentrated photovoltaics. And later, we have seen the PV system applications in the second part of this unit. So what are the applications we have gone through? We have gone through the building integrated photovoltaic systems, followed by solar water pumps, solar LED street lighting system, solar cars, solar aircrafts, and finally solar powered space satellites. So with this, we have completed this solar PV technologies 2 course in all respects. Thank you. If you have any queries, you can post me. Thank you.